All right, we are live, almost. Somebody's finding his way in, swimming over. Wow. I had to bring in the heavyweights here, put myself on the bottom, put the talent on the top for everybody to see. We have Rob from Law and Lumber, a newly created YouTube channel, not even a couple months old and setting the world on fire. And we have Spidey of Behavioral Arts, who also has gone and exploded like, I don't know, like a meteor, like a superstar, because he is a star. A guy who's been in front of Penn and Teller, for God's sake. I can't get any bigger than that. Welcome, everybody, to the channel. And this is commonly known, it's my name, but unstructured. And I will prove it to you that it can be very unstructured. Rob was just telling us how much he loves Elaine.
Oh, God.
Take it away, Rob.
Are we really going to unstructure my brain right now?
I'm so excited. I announced on my YouTube community page, I was like, because Rob and I, when we made our last collaboration together, we were trying to be extremely objective. And when it came to Rottenborn, we were kind of complimenting the body language a little, and not necessarily the position at all. I don't think any of us were defending the position, but a little bit of that body language. So there was a couple of people in the comments like, oh, you guys are really like fanboying over Rottenborn. So I said on my community, if you guys thought we're fanboying over Amber's defense team, come to this stream. Come to this stream, because I think we're gonna overcorrect that, because Rob has been melting all day.
Yeah,
actually, well, let's help out, because he doesn't look inspired to me. So I'm gonna get Elaine. She's a performer. She's out, and she's trying the case in front of the public. So let's see.
And we are joined now by Amber Heard's attorney, Elaine Charlson. Brett O'Hoff, good morning to you. It's good to see you. At first question.
Oh, and just let me know at different points to pause. I probably will do it too. It's a 5-minute interview. I'm sure it'll take us an hour to get through.
Don't worry. Spidey can go through the body language. I have her relevant quotes pulled up on postcards, so we'll pull those up one at a time.
All right.
Question, how is Amber doing? We saw her hearing that verdict. It took a long time to read. It was a sweeping verdict for Johnny Depp. How did she handle it?
You know, one of the first things she said is, I am so sorry to all those women out there. This is a setback for
pause
all women.
Okay, so we're 25 seconds in, and how many have we got a lie yet?
No, I don't know if we have a lie. We all know lie detection isn't like psychic powers where we go, that's a lie, that's true. I just want to say this. We talk a lot in behavior analysis about inconsistent head gestures, like when you're saying a yes statement and you go like this. Yep. Some people are inconsistent as a baseline. I'm one of them. When I emphasize something that I have a hard time dealing with, or that you're not going to believe, I often do this. I go like, you're not, like, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, like I go no like this because I'm having a hard time believing it. Elaine isn't like that. Please pay attention for the rest of this interview. Anytime she says something that she's convinced in or trying to convince herself in, she does a lot of yes gestures. It's almost scientific how she only does this when she says no statements, negative statements. Right here, she's talking about what one of the first things Amber said was, I always find one of the first to be a bit of a sneaky statement, because it's not the priority. It's not the first thing he said to me. That's like, okay, I get it. The first thing he said, she didn't say that. She goes, one of the first things is I'm sorry to other women. And now as she's talking, we're seeing this no gesture. In a lot of people, if I baseline them and I see that their head moves a lot, I would say that's nothing. But in this case, she's saying what Amber supposedly said and how sorry she was. Why is she going no for someone who's very consistent with yes gestures on affirmations? Just a note.
Well, and that
one more.
Also, sorry about that, Eric.
Go ahead.
I
was going to say, well, one thing I've noted too is there's another exception on that. There are many times I've heard or seen people say no, emphatically with almost a nod or a shove.
The re-emphasizing.
An encounter.
Yeah. I don't mind that. All kinds of people do different things, which is why in Elaine's case, we have to look at the rest of this interview and see what does her head do. And when Elaine is making positive affirmations, watch it. That's why I paused it now, or asked you to pause it. We get this. There are 2 points towards the end of the interview where she shifts from a yes statement to a no statement, and immediately her head goes from this to this. So she's very consistent in that. But Rob, I have a feeling you were going to say something really important.
Yeah, the other thing about this one is that the one of the first things when you preface anything with that, it gives you the right to paraphrase. That's what Elaine's doing here. She's setting it up to paraphrase. She is actually not quoting Amber, and by saying that one of the first things, she's kind of indicating or hinting to the audience, like, I might get this wrong, but this is what Amber conveyed to me. Anyone that watched the verdict being rendered at that point in time and watched Amber Heard slowly melt down into sadness and leave the courtroom, tell me how your BS meter is not going off of the chains right now, because Elaine Bredehoff just essentially said that she bolted out of that courtroom, sat back in that annex, and waited for Elaine Bredehoff to come back there. And the first thing that came out of her mouth was, I am sorry for the rest of women.
Yeah, that's such a great point. What Rob just said is perfect. Think about it. It's so inconsistent. The way she stormed off, did that look like someone was apologizing to women? There's no way. It's so inconsistent.
Yeah, my theory was she was extrapolating the Twitter statement and just saying essentially that Twitter statement was what was said by her.
Yeah, granted. But then the Twitter statement isn't one of the first things she said, is it? It's after reflection and talking to her PR team, something she published that are probably not even her own words. So to quote that as one of the first things she said is deceptive.
Oh, sure. And Amber's known for her concern of other women.
In and out, outside the courtroom, and she feels the burden of that.
Well, knowing the case and knowing the law, as you certainly do,
you can't see it, Eric.
Favors.
Oh God, you guys got to tell me sooner.
Sorry.
See, I want to make sure your pretty faces were up, and I always go zoom back. So
how did she handle it?
You know, one of the first things she said is, "I am so sorry to all those women out there. This is a setback for all women in and outside the courtroom," and she feels it, and she feels the burden of that.
Well, knowing the case and knowing the law, as you certainly do, it favors defendants like Amber Heard. Are you stunned that the jury essentially rejected her story?
Well, you know, really what happened here is it's a tale of two trials. Johnny Depp brought a suit in the UK for the same case, and the burden of proof was easier for him there. The Sun had.
Now we have a disagreement on this.
No, we don't. No, we don't.
I think Elaine is full of. She's full of it right here, and is even having trouble getting her story out.
No, that's not the problem. She actually, what you notice it right off the bat. She doesn't answer the question.
That exactly non-answer statement. That's exactly. Yep. Rob, he's too good. Why am I here?
She stutters. It hits her off guard. She takes that question like a blow, and that's the stammer in the beginning. And then what she does is that stammer is that little 1 second tick that she needs in her brain to get back to the next talking point. And the next talking point was dodge the question and then move on to something else that sounds like I'm answering the question, but instead is just me setting you up to gaslight the American people.
Yes.
Eric, I'm just going to go because you have like someone who's so great at the legal thing and also like equally competent as I am at the behavior analysis, because that was perfect. That was a non-answer statement. She was asked a question, and it's not only a non-answer statement, it's a rehearsed answer. She had a script in her head to go, this was the case of the tale of two trials. Like that was prepared. That was a prepared intro. And what Rob said is exactly right. It took her a second to access that script, click it on, and start playing that recording. I also want to know this. Is everything she's saying about the UK verdict correct here? I'm not informed on that. I don't know what the decision was because we're seeing a bit of hesitation.
It's not accurate. She's misaligning it. She's pretending that it was Amber's case in England. It wasn't Amber's case. It was the Sun. And she's trying to say that vindicated Amber. It didn't. It just said that there was a question about the article for the Sun. Or am I misrepresenting it, Rob?
No, that's actually, and that's one of the quotes that I have for us to kind of review the actual words that she says, because what she does is it's essentially gaslighting. So yeah, Johnny brought the suit in the UK for the same case. No, false. Right off the bat, false. That was a case that he brought against the Sun. The Sun was the publisher. The Sun was the person that made the statement. The Sun relied on Amber Heard's statement. So when the Sun was put on the defensive there, they had to prove that the statement they relied upon was substantially true and that they were allowed to rely upon it. Amber was not a party to that case. So the Sun only had to rely on Amber's statement, and they only had to prove to the court that they had the right to rely on Amber's statement.
Right.
And then
not even that it was true, that it could be true, that it could be believed, essentially. So it wasn't their fault.
Exactly. And then the next sentence here, and we weren't allowed to tell the jury this. No effing shit. Exactly. Because it wouldn't be a little bit prejudicial. It wouldn't be a little prejudicial to take a case where Amber Heard was not an actual party to the case, where she didn't have the same interest as a defendant does to defend themselves. And you take that case in a different legal system, different burdens, different legal system. And you want to try and mislead the jury to say, hey, you should give this weight, even though our Constitution says, state Constitution says, you guys get to hear and decide this. No, that was complete BS. And then the next thing is what the findings are, etc. Amber was not subjected to the same level of scrutiny or cross-examination as she was in this particular case. She was not given the opportunity to be told and called out because she didn't have to submit to discovery responses. She didn't have to do anything. There is a damn good reason why Elaine Bredehoft and Ben Rottenborn were not allowed to reference that UK final disposition, because it was completely bullshit to try and suggest to the jury that they should just not do their job and should instead rely on the UK court. Okay, soapbox, I'm going to set it aside.
No, but there's another factor too, right, Rob, that the evidence against her also could not be brought into the
Correct.
UK case.
Yep.
Elaine is talking all about all this evidence that can't come in. And it's like, well, what about all the evidence that did come in that couldn't come into the UK case because it wasn't relevant, because Amber Heard was a witness and not a representative?
Yep, exactly.
And Dana Bean, thank you very much. Her narcissistic personality would think she represented all women. Yeah. She might think, I don't even know what she really does or does not think anymore at any point. It's really hard to know. But yeah, thank you so much. All right, I did say this is gonna take an hour. I just want
to clarify something. So Rob, in the UK, all the Sun had to do was to prove that they had the right to say that because their source was Amber, but never actually had to prove abuse.
Correct.
Yes.
That's essentially, it's like if I publish something and I get it from a source that would seem to be reliable, am I accountable if that source lied to me? I didn't know that. I didn't mean to do that. I thought I did my due diligence. That's kind of their case, not a case of, oh, they went out and did this witch hunt or whatever. They just reported a story. And
just the fact that Elaine would say Johnny brought suit in the UK for the same case, as a lawyer who understands that the Sun didn't have the same burden of proof as Amber had, it's a really sneaky move on Elaine's part.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they tried to do it all trial.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool. I mean, but if they didn't really have the facts on their side, so they got to do what they can, I guess. I don't know.
Let's keep rocking and rolling.
Yeah, let's watch her continue to melt down.
To actually prove that it was true, and the court found there, and we weren't allowed to tell the jury this, but the court found that Mr. Depp had committed at least 12 acts of domestic violence, including sexual violence, against Amber. So what did Depp's team learn from this?
Now that's a problematic thing, because that judge in the UK really went above and beyond in his decision of ludicrousness in many ways. So he did, quote, kind of find this stuff that wasn't even necessarily asked of him.
Yeah, I was not looking at the body language of Elaine on that one. I was looking at the body language of Rob, and his tone went 3 shades redder, and he hasn't blinked once throughout that entire statement. So I thought I would contribute by analyzing Rob instead of Elaine. So
yeah, just boiling. The top will blow at some point.
Oh, hey. That's what makes it fun.
Demonize Amber and suppress the evidence. We had an enormous amount of evidence that was suppressed in this case that was in the UK case. In the UK case, when it came in, Amber won, Mr. Depp lost.
But here's the thing. You were able to get some evidence that you say demonstrated abuse. You certainly had her testimony. There were pictures, documents, all kinds of evidence. But in point of fact, the jury rejected it. I
love that statement. By the way, that was a nice little question when she's like, yeah, you had the stuff, but they rejected it. That's pretty slick.
You argued in your closing arguments that if they found even one instance of abuse, and it did not even have to be physical abuse, that they would have to find for Amber Heard, and they didn't.
And the other part to bear in mind here is nothing changed. The op-ed didn't even mention Mr. Depp by
Okay,
name.
stop. She doesn't answer a damn part of that question. She goes to another canned thing that is deflecting. It's almost like what she's trying to do is she's trying to make it a continuation of the question that was just being asked of her. It's a deflection, and it's the same exact thing she does. And then she goes, "I'm going to just continue down this script." Why not address the fact that you just got hit across the face with the actual fact that the jury didn't believe any of the evidence you presented?
Probably because nobody's going to believe her saying that. Let's see. Yeah, that's true. The Amber Heard tweet came out before she even left court.
I would love Elaine to answer the question about the two photographs of Amber that were the exact same that she claimed were different, and then the two pieces of evidence that were submitted that were the same picture given for two different altercations. I would like Elaine to be faced with those and be like, did you submit these two photographs for two different events? And I would love to see her answer to that.
I'd love to see a lot of answers, but I don't think you're going to get that from Elaine.
No, we're not.
No.
And Rob, check out House and Habit on Instagram. A juror from trial made a video. Oh,
that is. No one has confirmed that. I have seen the video. A bunch of people have seen the video. I know that that umbrella guy, me, James from court, Ian, all of us are trying to go through that video to see if there's anything in there that does suggest that it might be a juror. But there's nothing in there that we can verify.
But aesthetically alone, you don't recognize the guy?
He's not on camera. So it's voice only, and it's little bits of information he drops in the comments. So not a whole lot of verifiable info.
Interesting.
And so what basically they did here is demonize her. And they were able to suppress the medical records, which were very, very significant because they showed a pattern going all the way back to 2012.
Okay, I'm going to ask you this, Rob, because that's bullshit. Didn't Hughes just read through the entire thing of every medical record out there?
You fucking misleading piece. All right. So this one we already went through. The enormous amount of evidence suppressed. Okay. Let's go to the next one. The biggest lie that she just said, or the biggest misleading one that she just said. 3. Oh, back there. Yeah.
Sorry.
So the suppressed medical records, which showed a pattern going back to 2012 of Amber reporting this back to her therapist. That is completely misleading and complete BS. When she says the words medical records, the suggestion in the context of talking about some type of violent act or DA or DV, the suggestion is that there's going to be an actual medical record where a doctor examined you physically and saw some bruises or some wounds, or actually saw something about your appearance that suggested that that was a verification, a third-party verification of what you just experienced. What she then does is she then says a pattern of going to her therapist and reporting it back. That's not a medical record in the way she's trying to relay it. That's her personal statement that she's trying to bring up at a later date to increase or improve the veracity of her statement now. That's called bolstering. That is properly excluded from this case. And I'm sorry about the motions to suppress and the evidence that was not allowed in this case. I'm sorry if our judicial system actually has a form of discovery where you have to produce documents, and when you fail to do so, or when you produce them in a shady or encrypted or tarnished way, that there's a motion for sanctions that results in some type of disposition that allows for some of that to come in, but not all of it. Amber Heard turned over not the entire image of her device. But what's interesting about this one, in those motions, 85,000 pictures, 85,000 photos were taken from her camera. 85,000. Every single photo of one of the acts that she said of one of her injuries, every single photo that they had that was produced, you saw as the jury. That's it. 85,000 photos, you saw 10 of a couple bruises. That's the part that really that's gaslighting. That's bullshit.
Well, but then they've been saying that the whole time. How many times have we heard mountain of evidence?
Yep.
And that's bullshit. I'm calling bullshit on the medical records too, because I sat there wondering how Dr. Hughes could be reading statement after statement after statement after statement, like from like she was testifying, as if she was Amber Heard. Did she not go through like every self-reported thing out there the Amber Heard had? And it seemed like that was all of her evidence was literally just, oh, this happened, this happened, this happened. There's pictures of where? There's pictures that happened. There's piles of evidence that happened to happen. Every single thing came out of Amber's mouth.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see anything else.
Yeah. And when she's talking about like we have text messages and all this other stuff, you know, the text messages they're referring to, they're text messages from Amber to somebody else saying, oh my gosh, this happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
That's not proof. That's just you saying it again at a different time.
Well, she's a gift. Let me see.
Of Amber reporting this to her therapist, for example. We had significant amount of texts, including from Mr. Depp's assistants, saying, when I told him he kicked you, he cried. He is so sorry. That didn't come in.
Is there any other way to interpret this verdict, though, that this jury, for whatever reason, and I hear you on some of the evidence that they didn't hear, listening to Amber Heard, did not believe a single word?
You know, and that's because she was demonized here. A number of things were allowed in this court.
It was almost an answer.
Yeah, it's kind of an acknowledgement without an acknowledgement.
Yeah, I'll give her that one.
That should not have been allowed, and it caused the jury to be confused. We weren't allowed to tell them about the UK judgment.
Sorry. Stop. Rob, do you feel like the statement she just made, there were things allowed in this case that shouldn't have been allowed, is her prefacing or indicating that they're gonna appeal this, and this is part of her strategy for appealing it?
I mean, they already know they're going to appeal it. It's and honestly, to the extent that she wants to die on that hill, I'm glad that she has a lot of years before her, because that's not a hill you want to die on. Like, that's the evidentiary rulings in this case. From everything I saw, I disagreed with the judge on some stuff, as have a lot of attorneys.
Mm-hmm.
But by and large, to get an appeal and to get a jury verdict overturned on evidentiary rulings ain't going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to find like one case out of a million.
By the way, for all of those joining us, we just jumped right into this. We didn't get a chance to say this. I think it's extremely important to note that Rob up here is a lawyer who practices in Fairfax County, where all of this took place. So you're not going to find someone who's closer to this, more knowledgeable about all of this than a lawyer who was there. Rob, how many of the days were you in the courtroom? 2 or 3 or 4?
So I made it inside the courtroom 2 days. I was watching from the outside for the rest of the trial. Okay. Ian Runkle, who was staying at my house for 2 weeks, a week and a half, he made it in on every day that he was there except for one.
Wow.
So we got to see a heck of a lot of what was going on here.
So again, you know, for all those of you who are joining us and, you know, don't necessarily know who I am or who Rob is, you're looking at a lawyer who practices in that county, in that courthouse, and who was present during this trial. So you're getting as close to the source as possible.
Does Elaine practice there too, Rob?
Elaine, she's not really, this isn't her backyard. I mean, yes, she practices there. She does a lot of settlements. I know that she's, look, you look at her bio, it's the who's who of civil litigators in Virginia. She's got massive jury awards, massive settlement awards. I haven't come across her primarily because, and the chat might pick up on why I get kind of heated about these things, I'm a domestic relations litigator, which means that I handle family law cases, specifically cases involving child custody, visitation, divorce, allegations of domestic violence by and against. So I see this stuff every day. So when I see someone who doesn't practice in this field, who then decides they want to take facts, misinterpret them, and then gaslight the rest of humanity with the false statements, it kind of gets my back up.
That's funny. Nate was playing these earlier, and he played the Fox ones. Judge Janine on Fox, I guess. She opened one of the first TV shelters, and she was lighting up Amber, immediately saying, I knew the second I saw her, she was the abuser, not the abused, and it was a gaslighting condition. And you've done a lot of streams on this, Rob. Spidey, you've got a lot of feedback. Is it me, or have you noticed that it seems to be victims of DV who are most angry, who are most outspoken about this case all around?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. They're the ones that are most hurt by this.
Yeah. I think of the, if we look at the tens of thousands of comments that my coverage of this trial have gotten, I think 99.9% that come from victims of domestic violence are angry at Amber for trying to jump on a boat that means so much to them. And I think I've had much less than 1% of the victims who are like, how dare you? She's a victim. And I think all it is in most cases is that they haven't spent the time to look at the facts. They just see, this woman crying that she was abused, and they immediately get triggered by that. It triggers something, and they don't look at the facts. They just get really defensive for that kind of thing. I think anyone who took a little bit of time to look at it, and I'm just relaying this. This isn't necessarily my opinion. Are very angry at Amber and are completely calling BS from what I've seen in my comments.
Well, I think of it as somebody who's faking cancer.
Yeah, exactly.
For money and fame or whatever. This is a good question. Rob, you know this. Will Johnny's team address her misleading comments and statements today on both shows?
I don't know. I think they're going to see how it plays out. The comments that she makes here, I don't know that she's gone. I don't know that there's anything in there that would be a violation of the rules of professional conduct that would warrant filing a motion or anything. Mm-hmm. I am speaking from kind of the moral standpoint on this one and just not so much the professional conduct standpoint on this one. Mm-hmm. What I think that she is doing here is morally wrong. And just from personal ethics, I think it's wrong. But I'm not going to make an opinion on whether she's making these statements is somehow a violation of law or a judge's ruling or is somehow legally impermissible. I'm just not qualified to make that statement.
Okay, and these are. I was thinking it would be funny if instead of Waldman's statements, they'd be the Elaine statements.
Yeah, that'd be funny.
All right, so.
Damages is completely skewed. There are no damages. It stopped at November 2, 2020, which is when the judgment came down in the UK.
Let me ask you about social media in this case. Unlike any celebrity case, certainly I've ever covered or ever seen, social media was a part of this. And it was incredibly lopsided and vitriolic against Amber Heard. Do you think that had an effect on the case?
Absolutely.
You think jurors were aware of it? They weren't supposed to be. They're admonished every single day. Don't look at it. Do you think they did see it?
How can you not? They went home every night.
Eric, stop it.
She had, just wanted to comment. She had a stop gesture there, sort of like we could tell she's really not okay with this social media thing because her hand came straight up like this as a stop gesture to be like, and as she's going like eyes wide open, complete agreement. The mouth is a little open, like she's shocked and does not appreciate the obviously the public being part of this. I think she attributes a big part of the loss to the public. Just a little note.
And that's a funny observation, Spidey, because I've got some news for Elaine Bredehoff. You effing invited it. You quite literally had your client on the stand who looked directly at the jury. And when answering a question about whether or not this trial or these statements have a negative impact on her social standing, looks at the jury and says, I don't know, look me up. Are you kidding me? You're going to now say that it somehow is the rest of the world's fault for listening to your client when you bring that up, when you put an expert on the stand, and that expert analyzes a bunch of hashtags. And one of the hashtags the expert analyzes is Amber Turd and testifies to that in open court. And you're wondering why social media might have some opinions or laugh a little bit because that's your expert testimony. They're not laughing at the abuse allegations, Elaine. They're laughing at the stupidity that was that move. So yeah, you're pissed about social media. Congratulations for another self-inflicted injury.
I'm here. I'm all about tilted Rob.
This is interesting. Super chat. Natalie Lawyer Chick's analysis is New York lawyer. Prior Heard lawyers tried to suppress the ACLU donation evidence, and lawyers and Heard fined for misconduct by courts. Do you know anything about this?
Yeah, that was in the, there was New York litigation and there was LA litigation over the ACLU trying to get information from them. I believe the one that she's referring to was in the LA court. The Heard team tried to make the same argument for seeking to intervene to prevent the disclosures. And the judge said, I already ruled on this. This is the same argument, so I'm going to award fees. It wasn't that substantial. I didn't read too much into it. I can see why Amber's team didn't want those documents disclosed. So
it's more like a time wasting punishment. Like I've already heard this before. You waste my time.
It wasn't a you're playing shady. It was a time wasting punishment.
Okay. And let me see. As ground for their appeal, Amber Heard's team will say the jury was influenced by fans outside. Of course, they'll say, Rob, you personally swayed that jury in that courtroom. You know that, right? No.
Yeah, no, good luck on that one. I mean, honestly. And I love that she says that they were Johnny Depp fans, 100 Johnny Depp fans. Like it wasn't like there weren't any Amber Heard supporters in that courtroom.
No, Eve Barlow never showed up. Wasn't there?
And there weren't. I mean, I had people behind me when Amber Heard was testifying, crying, like they were Amber Heard supporters in that courtroom. Now they might have been ridiculed had they announced themselves because it was predominantly pro Johnny Depp. But just because you have a gallery that happens to maybe match the rest of, I don't know, the U.S. population at this point in time, and they are split about as evenly as the U.S. population is in favor of Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard, doesn't mean that that's prejudicial to your client. I mean, it's not how that works.
When the jury is asked by law to not look any of this up, by law, are Johnny Depp and Amber also supposed to not look any of this up?
No, they're allowed to look up anything.
Oh, they're allowed to?
Yeah.
Because it's about them, I think, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're parties to the litigation.
That's like they can sit. It's essentially the same rules of being able to sit in the courtroom like a witness. They can sit and listen to every witness and everything else because they're the parties, and they can look up whatever's being said.
Yeah, they have the right to confront. So it's the confrontation right that they have.
Okay. Just FYI, Amber posted her statement 4 minutes after the verdict. Yeah. I mean, I knew it came right away, and it was obviously a PR written piece.
That's a good point.
But very interesting. They should have asked her about the Australia tapes where she confesses to hurting him. Oh, Elaine. Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, Amber Heard's press release, they only wrote 2 drafts of it. And you can tell by the press release itself. They wrote the draft where Amber Heard won and where Amber Heard lost.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
This was kind of the split decision. So there's no even acknowledgement in there that they won for anything. Like it's kind of clearly, it's just stupid, all of it.
Is this a good time for me to talk a little bit about some behavior stuff when the verdict was being read?
Sure.
Because there's something I want to talk about when it comes to specifically that. And, with behavior analysis, a lot of the time we focus so much on what we're seeing that we don't take a second to take pause and think about what we're not seeing. And I think this is a really, really good case and example as to why sometimes with behavior analysis, you should stop and think about what you're not seeing rather than what you are seeing. And for me, this was one of the most telling behaviors from Amber Heard from the beginning of this trial. And it was this. All of you now, all the viewers, Rob, Eric, put yourself in the position of someone who firmly believes that they were abused. So because Amber went on that stand and she said things along the lines of, I have all this evidence, I was begging him not to make me prove this. So imagine if that was real, if that was true, if you believe that you've proved this and that you believe that you have tangible evidence. And now imagine that a jury comes back and finds you guilty of perjury. In other words, that they didn't believe what you said on the stand. The thing I would expect to see, put yourself in that position now, the thing I would expect to see the most is surprise and shock. Because if I'm convinced that I had evidence, if I'm convinced that I proved something here, which is a word she used multiple times, and somebody comes in and goes, we've decided unanimously that you're making it up, my reaction would be, are you guys out of your damn minds? There would be disgust. There would be eyes open. I would be taken aback. I would look at them. For someone who looks at the jury a lot when she's on the stand, she didn't look at them once during that verdict. She was hanging her head in shame. This was consistent with someone.
Well, she looked at the jury when she was performing. Every time the judge went, boom, she would turn off, like scene and cut.
Yeah.
But when the verdict was being read, she didn't look at the jury at all.
At all.
She didn't look at them at all. She looked at the clerk that was reading the jury. And I mean, Spidey's completely right. Her face should be essentially like my face was when Elaine Bredoff was talking.
Exactly.
That
there should be this
tension, that
like, you got this wrong. That's a fact. This is more consistent with a kid who got caught with the hand in the cookie jar, where they're like, yep. And we did see certain signs of sadness, not overwhelming grief,
more
but
resignation almost.
Yeah. For the first time since the beginning of this trial, Amber Heard did sadness correctly, because it wasn't this over-exaggerated display where she's like, look at how sad I am, chin up, big tense mouth, this kind of thing. For the first time, it was just a subtle corners of the mouth going down, corners of the inner eyebrows going up, droopiness in the eyes, droopiness in the mouth. For once, we saw what real sadness is supposed to look like. It wasn't that an extreme. It wasn't grieving. It wasn't torn apart. But the thing that bothered me the most is this was in no way shocking to her. It's like she had played out scenarios in her head where this is possible. So to me, that indicates that all this proof she thinks she had, all this evidence she thought she had, she knew this wasn't a strong case. And you got to wonder why.
Anyways. What I wonder about, and I do want you guys to speculate, is why the hell she even showed up. That was just, I mean, that really kind of was a surprise to me. I was like, are you that? I don't know. I don't have a good answer. It just didn't make sense. Like, Johnny not showing up, he had something going on, whatever. But her showing up, her being there, that really did take me by surprise.
Let me just kind of maybe speculate on the issue as you've kind of invited.
Yes.
I think the actual sadness that came across her and the fact that it was natural, I don't think she expected that. I think her expectation was the defiance, was that when the jury said something that she would have the capability of addressing them and facing them. I mean, when they started reading the verdict and they got to that count, the thing I expected to see was a chest heave. I wanted to see, you ever see that where they do the, like that, like it's almost like there's the inhalation, the sharp inhalation, or the shoulder drop. I expected to see that, not this slow downward. I mean, it really, I mean, Spidey says it's textbook sadness. This is actually watching someone who's falling into sadness and how slow the facial expression changes. I don't think she had the capability in that moment to do what she intended to do, which was to address these findings head on and basically put forward that strong strength and that defiance and like give the whole, I'm going to appeal this. I was right. You were wrong. Because that's what she's played for.
So you thought she was going to do a Smollett.
I thought she was going to play for the cameras.
I am not when he left.
And it had the reverse impact. Like if you see her express the sadness in the photos when she's testifying, there is a defiance to those photos. There's something that expresses a confidence that we don't usually see in victims back when she was testifying.
Sure.
I think she was looking for that type of image as this verdict was being read, so that they could photograph her, the defiant victim of abuse, and that she could then go around and advertise that, or that would be the poster of everything else. What happened was the reverse of that. You got someone who actually got hit with the verdict to express real sadness kind of for the first time that I have seen. And the photos are now kind of, it looks like an acknowledgement. Like, I know that what I said was a lie and I'm caught.
Is that because of the surroundings, Rob? As an example, there's a famous saying from Mike Tyson, like, everybody has a plan until they're punched in the face. This is kind of a punch in the face.
Yeah.
And we saw it, you just don't know how to react.
And I try to tell my clients this every single time when they're trying to say, I want to go to trial, I want to go to trial, I want to go to trial. Everyone wants to go to trial. And I always try to settle as many cases as I can, because there is a real cost to trial, and you cannot understand it, and you can never experience it. You never know what it feels like. I mean, even when a client wins, when they walk out, I've had clients when we walked out and we've won on every single issue, and they look at me, and it's the craziest thing in the world. Spidey, you probably get a kick out of it because you see every emotion across their face. You see anger, you see sadness, you see resentment, you see fear, you see confusion, and they so many of them ask, can I give you a hug? And I'm like, yes. And you just feel every emotion all at one time. To try and tell someone what they're going to experience when a judge or a jury renders a verdict, you can't describe it. And I don't think she was prepared for what happened in that courtroom.
I agree. I think her world came crashing down. There's someone in the comments, I lost it, but someone who said that they think she was putting on sadness to make the jury feel bad for what they did. That is, I listen, nothing is absolutes in behavior analysis. I've been doing this for a very long time on stages and lecture halls around the world. It's not that. As far as I know, it's not that. Because here's the thing. We know what she looks like when she's trying to play sadness to the jury. We've seen it again and again and again. It's over-exaggerated. It's displayed chin up. This is not. In the moment that verdict was being read, this is not her trying to prove a point. This is inner monologue actually crumbling and her going, what the F am I going to do now? What's my next move?
Ironically, when they were leaving the court, did you guys see the footage of her leaving with Whitney?
No.
Whitney's reaction was more interesting than hers, in the sense that Whitney just had this pugnacious look on her.
Really?
Like she was going to swing on somebody. It was very, very interesting.
Whitney did?
Yeah. If you get a chance, later on, whatever, look at them leaving the courtroom. If you're doing an evaluation, Spidey, that might be worth just taking a second and what's going on with Whitney. Yeah. Everybody who's watched me for a while knows that I'm very into something's up with Whitney and Johnny, and that Whitney's I felt
you crazy conspiracy theorist.
Yeah. Well, hey, you know what? I'm on YouTube. It's my job. Speaking of which, folks, if you like this content, with these amazing guests, and I do bring other people. Spidey can affirm the caliber of folks that I bring on, like the entire behavior panel.
The business.
Spidey himself. If you're into statement analysis and other things Spidey does, I've had Avinoam Sapir on, who literally brought it to America. I've had Mark McClish on, who's trademarked the term. I've had Peter Hyatt on multiple times, and with the behavior panel. So if you like this kind of stuff, please consider subscribing. You've had
Aldert Vrey, who is the biggest researcher on lie detection and the biggest skeptic of lie detection, which is amazing. That guy's contrast of that man's existence is hilarious to me, because we base so much of what we do on his research. Mm-hmm. And he's his own biggest skeptic, which is hilarious.
Yeah, I think you found that interview amusing.
So amusing. Love it.
All right, let's go work on a lane. I'm seeing super chats piling up, and I don't want to let anybody down.
All of them. You've got right now. I'm looking at. Is my number accurate? You've got 11,000 concurrent viewers.
Yes, which is wonderful. So I'm
awesome.
hoping that a few hundred of those might consider subscribing.
Guys, do it. Subscribe.
A few thousand of them.
Yeah, you know what? We're not even going to keep talking until you subscribe. We're not going to do it.
There you go. Spidey says. All right, let's go with this.
They have families. The families are on social media. We had a 10-day break in the middle because of the judicial conference. There's no way they couldn't have been influenced by it. And it was horrible. It really, really was lopsided. And I appreciate your saying that. It's like the Roman Colosseum, how they viewed this whole case. I was against cameras in the courtroom, and I went on record with that and had argued against it because.
Why, Elaine? Why would you not want cameras in the courtroom? Of course you would want them to see the star performance. My favorite line actually was from earlier. Greg Gutfeld said that Amber Heard couldn't get cast to play herself.
No, they'll probably cast Vasquez to play or something.
I want Rob to play Vasquez. They have similar fire when they're triggered. They're both sweeties who get triggered and just the fire comes out. I'm not sure it's good to have that much fire in your lumber. Get it?
Spidey.
But
terrible.
I'm just here for comment. Quick comment. I disagree with Elaine when she says that social media influenced heavily this decision, because I could promise you that if this decision was influenced by social media and public opinion, Amber would not have been given a single dime. Yep, so, and I would like someone to put that in Elaine's face, to go, okay, so what do you think about the fact that your client was awarded $2 million? And now see if she turns the table and goes, oh, yeah, well, that part of the decision was not influenced by social media. Only the part where we have to give money was influenced by social media. That's where the line is drawn. I would love for that table to be turned on her.
Also, the jury didn't just walk out and walk right back in. They actually deliberated for longer than the Sussman jury.
Oh, yeah, they did. The jury gave good consideration to all of this. And reading tea leaves on juries is a bad idea. because you're never going to be right. We're never going to be right. We can speculate as to every number of things. We have our guesses. And honestly, it's kind of interesting to posit those things because it encourages the exchange of ideas. But this jury was not just walking in there and saying, hey, we know what we're doing. We hate this person. We're going to give an award to Johnny. No, they parsed through those instructions.
Do you think, I'm wondering, would jury members maybe come out when they see this and they see themselves being represented as being influenced and stuff? I will be interested if any jury member comes out and says, oh, hell no.
Oh, yeah.
No, we weren't. I can't believe this woman is saying this. And that'd be very interesting.
And that's why I gave credence, at least at the outset, to that TikTok video that was released by the person claiming to be one of the jurors, because the timing, it was released today. And I'm going, if this person saw Elaine, I mean, I'm coming out. I'm saying something. I can't sit there and have her accuse me as a juror of being a misogynist when I listened to her client quite literally lie to the entire world about so many serious things.
Yeah, she's calling them liars. She's calling, I mean, whew, she's really, and she's trashing the judge. It's like, I hope she doesn't practice
it's disrespectful
in that court
to the
again.
judge.
And overall, and okay, I'm not a lawyer, but from what I've seen, the judge, I thought overall was pretty fair.
Oh yeah, and I think you're about to see some of her gestures as she gets a little bit wilder here. Spidey, are you coming up on some things with her?
I'm literally just here to watch you lose it.
Right, so let's get him to lose it.
No, I have a question for Rob before we go on. Rob, who decides if the jury's going to be sequestered or not?
The parties have to request it. The judge can do it sua sponte, which means from the bench, but they don't do it because the judge is the arbiter of the jury. They're the ones that have to maintain that decorum with the jury. And when the party requests it, even though they're not supposed to be told, rumors get back to them. And if Amber Heard had requested that the jury be sequestered, that verdict would have come back in 2 minutes, not 3 days.
Say that again. If they were sequestered, it would have been faster.
If one of the parties made the request to sequester the jury, it is without a doubt that jury would have found out, even though they're not supposed to. They would have found out, and they would have gone into that deliberation and sought to punish the person requesting the sequestration.
Really?
It is a bad move to do it. You're depriving them. And how do you sequester a jury now? They have to give up their phones, no access to Wi-Fi, no access to anything.
Barnes was saying judges hate doing it because juries hate it. That's my worst nightmare, right? I mean, if I was called for jury duty, especially 6 weeks, can you imagine that? Oh my God. I would be livid. I'd be so tempted to punish anybody and everybody in any way I could.
Yeah,
it would just be. Ugh.
I can't be pulled away from Eric Hunley videos for that long.
Oh, exactly.
Subtle plug.
All right, let me earn it.
Because of the sensitive nature of this, but it made it a zoo.
Does your client want to appeal?
Oh, absolutely. And she has some excellent grounds for it. We even had tried to get the UK judgment in to dismiss his case because he already had his shot. And that's one of the issues.
Cheek. He already had his shot.
Oh, yeah. I mean, come on now. Yeah, I know you tried to get the UK judgment in. That one we agree.
Oh, no, that was no. When you look at her facial expression as she's saying it, there's contempt that comes across her face.
Oh, yeah. That's the weird thing is that I can't believe she actually believes half of what she's saying. But whatever. Just playing a game.
Also, a number of the evidentiary issues, there was so much evidence that did not come in.
Is she able to pay a $10.4 million judgment?
Oh, no, absolutely not.
Now, that's true. I believe
you paused it just before the little quick smirk.
Okay.
Finally.
Bam. See it?
Yeah.
Just a little bit of a corner, just going up like just a little bit. You know what I mean?
Closing arguments, Amber's team argued that this would send a message, that it would send a message that no matter what you do as an abuse victim, you always have to do more. You need to be perfect in order for people to believe you if she did not get a favorable verdict. What message do you think this sends?
It's a horrible message. It's, as I said, a setback. It's a significant setback because that's exactly what it means. Unless you pull out your phone and you video your spouse or your significant other.
Which she did all the time.
Look at Rob.
Rob's got something for us. What do you have, Rob? More slides? Got a slide?
This is the biggest mother effing. I mean, there's the part of this that's the most depressing thing for me is that some of what she's saying is right, is that that's the message that was conveyed. The problem is that her effing client was the one that conveyed that message. Her client destroyed and set a lot of people back. The reality is that this does have an impact that carries forward to other victims. And it does cause them to pause where they have a statement and they sit there and they say, well, I don't have these things. Do I report this? And the answer should resoundingly be, if you are a victim, yes, absolutely, you do.
Yes.
What Amber Heard did was, and don't get me wrong, I'm not a Johnny Depp fan. I'm not an Amber Heard fan. What Amber Heard did is there were parts of her testimony that had little bits of truth. There were a lot of things when she was describing the verbal altercations, the emotional abuse, the things that he would say to demean her, to belittle her, to make her feel inferior. The way that he would leave, the feeling of abandonment that she had when he would leave and not actually engage with her, the breaking things. Those are things that are suggestions and can fall within that big, broad umbrella of abuse.
True.
And when those occur, and for people that have those things occur, you have to believe and understand that that's enough. Don't go forward and pile on additional allegations or facts or specifics. Because what that does is that does what this case is, which is you take something that has a kernel of truth and you blow it up into something that is such of large proportion. And I love that Elaine keeps saying mountain, because I'm just going to say it right back to her. It was a molehill. You had something there. And what's crazy is that molehill might have been enough to make that statement that was made in that Washington Post article true. If you stuck with the molehill, it might have been true. But you made it into a mountain. And when you're sitting here holding a molehill in front of me and trying to tell me it's a mountain, I'm calling BS. And she is, at this point in time, she is gaslighting every single true victim. And she is trying to inflict fear on each one of those victims to make them lash out against a process that was inherently fair. It is complete bullshit. And Elaine Bredehoff, I had an ounce of respect for you after the end of this trial. I have lost that. And you have just put yourself as one of the most harmful people to all women's rights activists that I have ever seen. Shame on you. I hope you can live with yourself after this. This was horrible.
And on that point, I noticed Rottenborn's not out there doing this crap.
No, he's not.
He just went home, boom, and he'll go to an appeal. But yeah, this is shameful.
They're beating you. Effectively, you won't be believed.
Elaine Charlson Bredehoff, thank you very much for your time this morning.
All right.
I want to add something to what Rob was saying a second ago. So when we look at lies or deception, there are three kinds of lies. Lies of commission, omission, embellishment. Well, the guys you hang out with say there are four. There's another one, transference, but I don't, because to me, transference will fall into one of the other three categories. So I'd like to stick to the three. So lie of commission, flat out lie. I say something that isn't true. Lie of omission, I withhold something. And then the third one is embellishment. So I take something that at its core it's true, but I add to it so much that it becomes untrue. Embellishment and commission will have a lot of the same signs because they're both untrue. Embellishment is a little harder to spot because at the core of it, there's truth. So the person might just be adding to it and it blurs the lines. Omission is a little different. You might see more lip compressions, more editing and things like that because they're omitting something. They're telling you truth while avoiding part of the truth. So you see different sentence structure and things like that. But it's really hard to distinguish between lies of commission and embellishment. It's really hard to know if someone's being deceptive, if at the core of that deception is no truth whatsoever or a little bit of a baby truth. And I agree with Rob 110%. This is where Amber Heard shot herself in the foot, because the question I've been asking myself and has been bugging me this entire trial is, what if a little bit of that is true? Because let's put all the polarized people on social media aside for a second. Everyone goes, she's so full of it. She's 100% lying. Eric, as you know, I've analyzed some of the worst murderers in the world, and nobody is lying about 100% of what they say. No one, ever. Most things exist in a gray area. So if we're being realistic about this and not polarized, let's ask ourselves completely objectively, is it possible that somewhere in all of these stories that are, some of these are so obviously made up, some of these are highly embellished, but in one of them, somewhere, is there a small truth? And I agree with Rob 110%. If she had just stuck to the facts, even if the facts weren't this sensational, the one, all my subscribers know that, to me, the Australia story that she told is something out of a Marvel movie. He threw me across the room. I landed on a ping pong table. And I don't know if I held on to him or if he came after me, but he landed on top of me. So she alleged that there's a possibility that he threw it with such strength that she held on to him and they both went flying through the air. Amber, it's not logical. The way she denied things that...
Hold on. Let's go with Australia a little bit more. Let me see. He's missing the tip of his finger. Now, which hand was on your neck, Amber? Was it the cut off finger, or was it the bottle that he was manipulating?
Yeah.
Because he would probably be manipulating with a stronger hand, but it's hard to hold a bottle with your finger cut off. Trust me, I'm an expert. That's one thing I'm an absolute expert on. I know what it feels like. And by the way, that's how I know Johnny Depp definitively was telling the truth about how it felt. Because notice he said it wasn't pain. He felt heat. This happened when I was 10 years old and I had a flashback when he said that. I was like, oh, that's right. It actually didn't hurt. Because people were freaking out by it, because I was kind of going like this. I was wearing all white, and it was just splattering everywhere. And I'm just kind of like, weird. And you've got this little volcano of blood going.
Yeah. So, yeah. But there's a lot going on in Australia that doesn't make sense. Also, I think more than anything in the world, I want to go into that damn room and see if there's a freaking rotary phone on that damn wall. Or whatever she said, because she is flat out saying there was a phone there on the wall, and he's saying it wasn't there. I so desperately want to know if there's a damn phone on that damn wall. Somebody tell me. Somebody go Airbnb that place, take a picture. I need to know if there was a freaking phone on that wall. But whatever, that's just for me. Anyways,
but even with Australia, when she's describing the actual words, when she's describing the feelings, when she's describing the arguments, when she's describing, there's part of it where you're going, the emotionality of it, some of the emotion that she's expressing in this point is true. There's something that happened in Australia, and you just want to know what the hell it was.
Guaranteed something happened, but her narrative doesn't make sense. So all I'm saying is, so many narratives of hers don't make sense, but at the core of that, we can't know. That's the thing. So we focus on all these lies. She becomes the boy who cried wolf, and we cannot know if at the core of that there's any truth. So we just throw the whole thing out. So she did herself a giant disservice by trying to get this big reaction and this narrative of like, he's the worst monster who beat the living heck out of me, as opposed to saying, listen, here's what happened. Here's what really happened. It's not these big stories, but there is some truth to it. She would have done way better, I think, if she went down that path in terms of anyone believing her. Anyways.
Awesome. Now, let's see, I have 39 super chats piled up, so I really do want to address these. And folks, bear with me. I'd love to do the Good Morning America interview as well, but I have limited time. I don't know, how long these guys can be on, and I don't want to neglect your super chats. I can't do a makeup show, because how am I going to get them back on to do a makeup show when questions are for them? So please indulge me and be patient. I want to take care of you on this. Rob, will an appeal be determined by Judge A, or will they be able to bring it before a different judge?
Appeals are filed. You file a notice of appeal, and it goes before a 3-judge panel of the Court of Appeals. It's done 30 days after the final order is entered. Final order is scheduled to be entered June 24th.
All right. And super sticker. Thank you so much, Boy Mom Adventures. This is for you, Spidey. Can you please give us some analysis of Samantha Guthrie's attitude toward Elaine? That would be interesting. She was the interviewer.
Oh, I'm sorry. Gee, okay, I didn't know that was her name. Like, who is Samantha Guthrie? Sorry, Savannah Guthrie. I didn't know that was her name. I apologize.
No worries.
Yeah, I didn't pay too much attention to that. I think her priority is to push the right buttons, like when she's like, yeah, but the jury didn't believe you, Elaine. So I think it's more about that. But also, interviewers become really, really good at just sort of completely objectively asking their questions. And I think there's a great example of that. I don't think you're going to see too much opinion there. I think they're also by default sympathetic to their guests, regardless of their position. I've been on interviews where I know the host disagreed with my position, but they try to be sympathetic to that because Elaine is a guest on her show. Exactly. So yeah, we're just seeing, and Eric, I'm sure you can relate to, because you're an incredible interviewer, and I've never really sensed too much coming from you where, like, if you disagree with someone, that you're trying to shove that in their face. So yeah, I'll take a look if I see anything. It's interesting. Yeah.
Okay. Any chance of Elaine being disbarred? I doubt that.
No,
being
it's not going to happen.
No.
Oh, new member. Thank you very much, Francis. Rob, Rob, don't calm down. Don't calm down. Only breathe.
I needed to get that off my chest because it was something that needed to be said, and it needed to be said in a public place. And thank you, Eric Hunley, for allowing me this opportunity to say that.
This is therapy for Rob. Yeah, this is just public therapy for Rob. You're all just watching therapy for Rob.
Oh, God.
Here we go. And this is a good point.
Oh, you know what, Eric? Sorry, I have to say this. Yep. Sorry, Eric, I have to say this. I do have to. This is very important. I just, because I want the viewers to understand how angry Rob is. Like, this is my moral mission. The last video Rob and I made together, we started filming at midnight. I was on tour, Eric, as you know, and I had a show in Delray, Florida. I came back. It was midnight. Rob and I got on our call. We started filming. I was exhausted from the day of performing. He was up because he was in the courtroom the day before, the day before. That's why we're talking that day. So he's on little sleep. We're talking 2 hours and a half of solid gold, like great commentary, vibing, flowing. It's going, like we just kept saying after everyone, that was amazing. That was amazing. It's about 3. Hell time was it? 2:30 in the morning. 2:30 in the morning. 2:30 in the morning. As I'm talking, I look at my monitor on my camera and I see that the level of the mic isn't hitting where it's supposed to. And I go, wait a second. Oh my God. And I realized that the mic, the cable that plugs my mic to the camera had popped out. I had missed 3/4 of that. And I go, and I'm thinking to myself, how am I going to say this to Rob? How am I going to say this to where I don't look like an idiot? So I go
very slowly, carefully.
So I explained to her, I go, oh my God, dude, I'm so sorry. When I went in to sort of look at the footage earlier, it must have, and I'm crying to the point where, like, not crying, but like where Rob's going, Spidey, if you drop your head in shame one more time, I'm going to punch you.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
He goes, stop that. And he goes, what? And Rob's trying to keep me calm. And he's going, what are we going to do? Breathe here. And he goes, you know what, man? And like, just completely calm. Goes, you know what, man? Take 10 minutes. We're going to redo the whole thing. And even in that moment, there wasn't even 5% of the anger that I see on his face when he listens to Elaine talk. So just to give you an idea, an exhausted man after 2.5 hours of filming is told that he has to redo that entire thing. And maybe he reaches 2.73% pissed offness as him watching this Elaine interview.
No, this is great. Fiery Rob. Awesome. I'm happy to provide. Let me grab a couple of these as we go.
I wasn't crying amber tears. These were real.
They were real.
No, if it was amber, there wouldn't be tears.
I was more concerned about how upset Spidey was than I was. Honestly, it was an experience, and I just told him, let's do it. It's fine. You're fine. We're fine. We did it. 2 more hours of filming. It turned out great. The video did wonderful. So,
you guys seem to you recovered very, very nicely, both of you. I promise.
I think if I'm not mistaken, and I don't want to jump to conclusions, I believe, wait for it, please wait for it. I don't want to be embarrassed here. We are celebrating that video has hit 2 million views as of the last hour or so.
Have you hit 600K yet, Spidey? Because you're about there too.
Have I hit? No, 595. We're not far.
God.
Go subscribe, guys. Go subscribe. There's 10,000 of you watching this. Go subscribe.
But leave one here before you go.
Yeah, no. After this, don't go now. After this, go subscribe.
All right, this is a good point. Hi from Minneapolis. This is Rackets Country. Nick Ricada. Got to say, Elaine and Phil Hartman's wife, two of the worst things that come out of Thief for False.
Ooh, that's dark.
Yeah, it is. Well, and there's a lot of comparisons about Phil Hartman. You know, if things escalate over time.
Yeah,
and that is a very disturbing thing.
That was disturbing.
DA and SA Survivor here. I'm not a JD fan, but am a left-leaning feminist. Hey, JD's actually a lefty too. Tired of Elaine and MSN trying to gaslight us because we believe in facts. Yeah.
Oh yeah. This crosses all lines. I mean, the number one people that I've seen more than anybody else are the actual victims who are the most upset.
Somebody agrees with me about the Waldman comparison. Kind of is.
Kind of. I see it.
I'm here for frustrated Rob with the cursey words. I'm matching the energy. I put some sailors to shame listening to this earlier today.
Good for you, Francis.
I've been dying to hear Spidey's take on this. So glad you're streaming. I am too, and I'm thankful that he's here to talk about it. Maria, Depp should say he'll accept $2,000,001 from AH, meaning their debt to each other is canceled, and the request the remaining $1 be tendered in cash, with her signing and dating it, then frame and hang it somewhere. I don't know. You know, he could. The ultimate mic drop would be if he said, "Okay, you now have to pay that actual settlement to the whatever she was supposed to donate
Not
to."
Pledge,
or if he took
Amber, not pledge.
Actually pay it. Actually pay it. Yeah.
I mean, that would be a cool mic drop. Can't it be because they knew the results before with the mess up of the jury verdict form, so she had time to process? That could be a factor.
You saw a little bit of her body language change when that happened, and the attorneys did too, for both sides.
Don't you think if people that suffered DV or SV believed or felt AH testimony, they would have come in support of her, and they would have had more people in the gallery?
Yep.
Yeah,
I would have if she expressed true emotion, if she had hunched over, if I saw real emotion out of her, it would have been hard for me to, well, one, to be in that gallery, period. But two, more supporters.
Why do you think there are so much smiles and smirks from Elaine and Amber on the last week? Even with Rottenborn, they look like BFFs.
Those were not happy smiles or smirks.
Probably
you go back and look at those, and there's a little bit too much tension when they smile at one another.
Yeah, I think Elaine is afraid of Amber half the time.
No, they hate each other.
Okay.
There's a great deal of contempt when you start seeing how they act towards one another after Amber takes the stand.
When she walked out.
Yeah, when she walked out, you see even the hugs are awkward and distant and strained.
Spidey, do you think Amber Heard's attorneys appear to be surprised by the verdict?
Two things. One, I was focused way more on her than them, but I did catch quite a few glimpses of them. But second, I think, and Rob will correct me if I'm wrong, Rottenborn and Elaine, we could say everything we want to about them. They're both very experienced lawyers. I think in time you become very, very good at being non-reactive when a verdict is read. Rob, would you agree?
They were both very good at it. I would say Elaine was a little bit better than Rottenborn at it. Rottenborn had a little bit of a dip in the cheek, and his face fell a little bit slack. I think that kind of hit him off balance a little bit. But again, they also won one of those counts going back. I actually probably want to watch that again and see how they reacted when they saw that one, because I imagine they were kind of surprised by that one as well.
I don't think they expected the sweep. They probably thought that it would be much more of a mixed bag.
And that's what you see when they read it out. If you look at Rottenborn's face, the first one he's expecting, the second and the third, you start to see the face drop. And you see him get a little bit more down as that goes on.
All right. Quick question I've been wondering about. A couple days ago, I saw that the ACLU filed a motion for dollars from JD about their legal fees and time. Will they have to pay now that he's won? Probably some.
No, this is different. No. ACLU's motion was incident to a motion to compel that was heard in New York. When you issue a subpoena to a third-party corporation and they have to produce documents, they get to impose costs on you for requiring them to produce those documents. ACLU is trying to impose $86,000 of costs for their production of documents. Some of those costs are in attorney review of the documents themselves, redaction, and then some of the litigation that went back and forth for the production. We'll see how that plays out. That's kind of an ancillary motion to this one, or to this proceeding. It's between ACLU and Johnny Depp.
Okay. Oh, let me see.
I'm sorry I keep disappearing, by the way. My tortoise keeps going into the corner and walking like I think he thinks he could go through the wall, so I keep having to go get him.
At least he goes slow.
Yeah, no, he can run pretty fast, but he just keeps going to that. I don't know what he's doing. I think he's like right in the corner. He's just going like right up against the wall. And I'm very sorry about that. So I just keep going to get him so we won't hear him on the mic. There we go.
All right. Notice how quickly they contacted her from Virginia to New York for the interviews. Well, I don't know. Isn't that kind of a standard fare?
The timing was a little bit off. I mean, I didn't like it. That's the other thing, is to go out with a statement afterwards. You basically make the statement that says, I respect the jury's decision. This was a case that was very contested. The evidence was hard fought getting in or out. I disagreed with some of the decisions. You go out with a respectful tone. The fact that she came out within 12 hours. Yeah, about 12 hours.
Yeah.
16 hours. And she gave that interview in New York.
Well, I wasn't talking about the content of the interview. I mean, if she came and it was just like, we fought, it was hard fought, we're going to do our best for a client, something. I don't know if anybody have trouble with it. It's the gaslighting.
I think the timing and the content, because the thing is, she didn't go to local. This is a Fairfax County. She went to something that's going to have national reach. She wanted this to be on the front page of today's paper / tomorrow's papers. And what she did was she fed the media narrative that has basically used this to fuel a discussion that's not taking place in this case.
Yes, and 14,243 people are watching. So thank you, Elaine. No,
seriously.
All right, Eric, check Jen Howell for Insta post for Whitney context. Jen Howell, I'm not familiar, but okay. Super sticker from Heather. Thank you so much. Heather's a regular. Thank you, Heather.
I'm all about this comment who says that my tortoise is running away from all of Elaine's BS.
I agree, Kim Ripley. I'd be so damned offended too if I was a juror being accused of not following the rules and questioning my integrity after I sat for 7 weeks, really, because it was even longer. Yeah, there was a week break, but I mean, life being put on hold. No, I'd be pissed. If she could prove jury members were influenced by social media, wouldn't that be grounds for a mistrial? Probably. If one of them said, I knew he was guilty as soon as I saw that. Well, if they said, something, right?
No,
actually, no, because
no.
Ghislaine,
the statements that jurors make after the verdict, they don't actually come in. They don't come into play.
Is this the Ghislaine Maxwell wasn't interesting because the form wasn't filled out right and they discovered it after the fact.
I mean, that's different though.
Okay.
This one essentially, they would have to drag the jurors back in and say you were influenced by social media, and I just don't see how you prove that. You really can't.
No, I mean, unless they go around saying blah blah, that would be crazy. But then,
can I ask Rob a question?
No, you had 5 questions. You're done. Of course.
Okay. Well, can my tortoise Michelangelo ask Rob a question?
Well, yes, of course.
Rob, here's my question. You're on potentially the biggest or second biggest or one of the top 2 morning shows in the world, the Today Show, and the interviewer asks you about the financial state of your client. Do you answer the question?
No.
Okay, because I felt that was really out of place for her to be asked.
Astounding, no.
Okay, because she was asked, can she pay this? And she immediately, no hesitation, no, like, I don't know if, no, and it wasn't even a nuanced answer. Like, we got to look into that. She immediately goes, no, she can't pay that. She broke. I thought that was really inappropriate.
Yeah. And I did an entire video last night live on why bankruptcy would be, it's not going to help her very much other than to help her reorganize. And Amber Heard, if you're listening, if you file bankruptcy, you can discharge your attorney's fees.
Oh, but not the penalty.
Not
right?
the penalty, not the penalty, not the judgment, but you can freeze the interest on the judgment and put it into a payment plan, but you can discharge the attorney's fees. So
Ooh, that would be funny. That would almost be karma.
just a bit, like and I wouldn't usually suggest that. Elaine Bredehoff, I might have just made your day really bad.
Okay, cats are people too. All right. Earlier, apparently, a camera I sold Scott Rouse of the Behavior Panel my old camera because I wasn't using it, and I guess he was using it today, and it's not the best camera in the world. So yes, I am Eric, who supplied the now broken equipment to Scott Rouse because he can't take care of things that I give him.
You've
That's
ruined the
what
panel. You've ruined the panel.
But there you go. I'll just say that that's proof of how yes, I know the guys. Spidey, is there any way that Michael Palmer can arrange to pay you to privately review and evaluate a video interview for him? How would you go about doing that?
Reach out on Instagram. My manager is probably going to respond, and business inquiries can go through my website, emails, or Instagram, and my manager takes care of that, and he'll probably ask some questions. It is a service that we do offer, but he does have to ask screening questions to see if the footage is something I can even analyze before we waste anyone's time.
You see how he's big time? My manager. You already know he's big time.
Stop it. I've been a performer for a very long time, and that requires management. So
I know that, but I still take every opportunity to taunt you because it's.
Well, you don't go through my manager. You've got the direct line of contact.
I don't know. Maybe he has your phone.
No.
It's me. I'm just kidding.
It's always me.
All right. What if anything? I always love how people are doing the what if anything for Elaine. Always perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Can real DVSA survivors do to help stop this awful rhetoric or to disseminate actual evidence so the media can self-correct? They have to want to self-correct. That's the challenge.
That's the question for the media, but to the question to the people that actually were the survivors of this or have gone through this, please remember you are not Amber Heard. Like, you are not Amber Heard. And that is not what you saw is not an example of your particular case.
You're Johnny Depp. Remember, you are Johnny Depp.
And you guys have been doing it already. You've kept doing it. One of the biggest things about anyone who's been a victim, oftentimes victims gravitate towards one another. They just tend to do that. Hold each other up, lift each other up, remind each other that this is something that you guys can do together, that this case does not mean what the media is making it out to mean. And then before you make any allegations, before you actually go forward with the allegations, talk to an attorney. Find out what it is that is important to remember, what's important to say. Don't over exaggerate or elaborate. Don't add unnecessary facts. What you experienced is enough. It will be enough. You need to trust that, and then find some legal help, and we can help you out as you go forward on that one.
Great advice. I love this. Please retitle the video Elaine's 15 Minutes of Fame. I might do that, actually. That is a pretty good title. Let me see. Of all people, yes, Judge Janine. Not everybody likes Fox. I get that, but they did a good job covering it. I think it's on a show with Greg Gutfeld or something. She was the soundbite of the day. She literally roasted Amber Heard every way, and she was like, "No, I can say it here. She's a liar. I'll say it on national. She is a liar," and she just said flat out. And
I'm not allowed to say that.
Why not?
Oh no, you're allowed to say it when you have demonstrable proof, not on body language, but on actual things that she's said that are provably false.
The jury just said that it's that. So all you're doing is it's like if somebody's convicted of murder and I call them a murderer, then I am factually correct, I think.
Yeah, guys, I was just joking. It's just like when we train in lie detection, behavior analysis, body language, like we're just always told like never ever make that statement. It's beaten out of us. So it just scares me.
But a judge can. And
a judge can. I'm not a judge.
Is Elaine is this her making of most of her? Oh, sure. I mean, of course. I can't see she's doing it for Amber. I don't know how it's helping Amber. So it must be for Elaine. is Amber responsible for Elaine continuing defamation? Again, this is the same Waldman question.
Technically speaking, Elaine is acting in capacity as Amber's attorney. So the connection is the exact same as the Adam Waldman, Johnny Depp connection. The difference is that this is kind of technically still during active litigation. So that litigation privilege might attach, at least in some respects. But yeah, it's I don't like any of these statements.
All right. Long ago in faraway Alaska, I worked as a legal assistant in a huge municipal government. Thank you all for reminding me how interesting and working with the law can be. Ever hear of Project Chariot? I have not, but thank you. Yes, I agree, Brentwood Cheek. What the world needs is Angry Rob and Sleepy Runkle doing a live together. That would be an interesting. It would have a very peculiar balance.
The contrast.
Oh God, yes, the contrast. I mean, right now we have Angry Rob and Happy Spidey.
Yep, that's working out really well too. I like that one.
Yeah, that's always a good collab.
She said the stuff in front of the jury. Sure. Actually, Rob, can I get feedback from you on that real quickly? Because you did watch her testimony live in the courtroom. What it felt like to me was she would start up a story and be looking at the jury or looking around and nobody's buying it. So let me throw in a little more. Let me throw in a little bit more. Let me throw in a little bit more. And doing the embellishment, as Spidey was saying.
Oh, yeah. And that was kind of Spidey's in my first video, was going through a lot of that's on Spidey's channel, of how she ramps up and how she gears herself up, and how when the jury doesn't, there's a point in her testimony where she's scanning the jury, and then all of a sudden you see her do this violent, like, downward head shake. And it is a full commit, and she throws herself into the emotion. And from that point forward, the histrionics that you see just displayed openly were just insane. I think Spidey was looking at it going, what the F is going on here? It was crazy.
And Spidey was texting me with me, doing it's like, I know it'd be like 2 minutes. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. And I was nicknaming her. I said that she's a pinball machine of micro expressions. Only they're not micro. But it's like
they're macro expressions.
Oh.
And what I love about Amber Heard, I can tell you because I've done these videos, is anytime you pause the tape, you get a weird expression.
You got something.
It's like just something
that's inconsistent. Something that's inconsistent, like a forehead crease that doesn't match the jawline, or a lip purse that has this sad expression instead of an expression of anger. I mean, none of it makes sense.
Yeah, it's not right.
And actually, on that note, would you agree that Dr. Curry's testimony may deep down have been the most important testimony of the trial, because she described Amber in such a manner that anytime she was testifying, the jury could hear her in their head pre-setting the stage for this person will do this type of thing and this type of thing and this type of thing. And it just felt like it was such a complete reinforcement of what happened.
Mm-hmm. And what's funny about that bit of testimony, which is, it's not so much the information the jury received, it's the party from whom they received it. I hate it's just a fact, and it's an annoying fact. I mean, generally speaking, we want information to be given if it's factual, you want it to be given the same credibility, period. But when it's relayed by someone who is inherently likable and believable, even though that's not something that should be a metric, it actually does do a great job in importing that information on the jury. Dr. Curry was remarkably likable from the stand. I mean, you were watching on video and you could tell that she was immediately personable. And when she's sitting 4.5 feet away from the jury and giving that impression off, I mean, the jury is eating that up. So they liked her, which meant that they also gave her extra attention when they were hearing the information, which carried over into Amber Heard, who they kind of don't like even when Amber starts talking.
And Elaine, they don't like either. I mean, did they respond to Elaine? I want to know how the jury responded to her.
The only time that I ever saw a response, Juror 9 hated her, like just hated her, wouldn't look at her.
Elaine or Amber?
Elaine. a couple of the jurors, confusion, a little off-putting. There were times when, who was it? Juror six, bottom left, where Elaine would ask a question of Amber and the objection would come, and then Elaine would struggle with the question again, and juror 6 stayed locked on Elaine instead of looking back over to the witness, which kind of suggests a little bit of frustration with Elaine. I don't know that they didn't like her or that they did like her. I think that the abrasive nature that she exhibited didn't help her too much.
Wow. Amazing. Whew.
I want to talk about, Eric, let's talk about what we were talking about earlier through text as to because we were trying to figure out because if you look at Elaine going on these morning interviews, she is really still sort of on Amber's side, or seemingly so. Really going to war for Amber. And
sure.
It's kind of strange because a lot of people might look at that and go, why the hell didn't she jump ship? If you look at from any angle, the Amber vessel is on fire. And why is Elaine still there? So there's a lot of really interesting psychology that plays into this. And I told Eric, you there's this thing I got to go find, and I did. I went through all my psychology books. I had a feeling it was going to be in this one, and it was. I found it in Split Second Persuasion by Kevin Dutton, which is a great book about basically about changing minds, how we make decisions and how we change minds. It's a really powerful book, really great stuff in here. But I found this study that was done, and I remembered it. It's just not one of the ones I quote too often, but I've always been fascinated by this. So in 1956, this was a study at Stanford by Leon Festinger. I believe I'm saying that right. It could be Festinger, but I believe it's Festinger with a hard G, G-E-R. Basically, he studied a cult, the Doomsday Cult. So it was called the Doomsday Cult, and it was led by a woman called Marian Keech. And she had predicted that year, 1956, on December 21st, that the world was going to end at the hands of aliens. Right. So you would think that if that day came and went, and nothing happened, that everybody would just go, oh, okay, well, she's wrong. We're going to leave the cult. That's what most of us would assume. Well, it turns out he did this research. He was really deep in there. He interviewed a lot of the cult members. And what happened is, after that day came and went and nothing happened, their fidelity to the cult multiplied by a lot. It increased by a lot. And we've studied that phenomena a lot. And Eric, you brought up fraternity hazing. We know psychologically that if you suffer for a cause, you are way more sort of, what's the word I'm looking for here? Not fidelity, but your allegiances to that cause grow much, much stronger. And again, there's tons of studies. One of my favorites is they invited these women to go to a seminar about relationships and sexuality. And the seminar was nonsense. There was no real information being given. But some of the women were just let in for free. And some of the women had to answer a very difficult and long and tedious questionnaire. Well, the ones who had to go through that process, when they left, when they were asked about how much value they gained, gave a lot higher points as to how much value they gained. Because and you brought up exactly what this is called, Eric. It's called the sunk cost fallacy, which is something that we do where if we put time and effort and blood, sweat, and tears into something, our commitment for that thing grows.
The Vietnam War, for example, is probably the biggest example of sunk cost fallacy. Is or any of the wars, how long do we stay at it? Because we're like, people have died. We have shed, blood and gold for the country. And what, we're going to turn our backs on everything we've invested so far?
Exactly. And this is why a lot of people, they're stuck in really bad relationships. And you go, well, why are you still with this person? Obviously, they're terrible. And you go, yeah, but on his good days, it's much better. And, we've had some good times. And they're using that little bit of good to justify the commitment and the time they've already put into this. I believe that's what we're seeing with Elaine here. I believe we're seeing the sunk cost fallacy. I believe we're seeing cognitive dissonance at an extreme. That's when your brain disagrees with itself. And it goes back to what I said with raising commitment out of a fear of embarrassment. So often we take a standpoint and when we see that it's really not working out, instead of backing out, we commit to it a lot more because we don't want to be embarrassed or feel like we were wrong. So she's put so much into this.
Actually, gambler's fallacy too, because she's gambled everything on this. And 100%. I can see too, it's like Oh, well, I got to keep putting in because I could pull this out. Now I could see her wanting to do the appeal, because if she could win the appeal, she could say, oh, I pulled it out. I won the appeal. In the end, I won.
Exactly. So I think at the end of the day, because Elaine was so forced. Now, here's the thing. We don't know how Elaine went into this. We don't know if she went into this at first really believing Amber, or if she went into this saying, there's a couple of things that as a lawyer don't add up to me. Because Rob called this almost immediately based on all the other cases he's seen, that what this is supposed to look like. Rob knew almost immediately. I remember we were talking pretty early on. He was like, this just doesn't add up to a real victim. So I don't know if Elaine saw that instantly, or if she was, believing her client. Presumably at some point, Elaine saw some things that she didn't really think add up. Presumably, could be wrong. And I think that at some point she had to make a decision. And that decision is, I still have to represent this woman who's hated by everyone out there, this woman who's telling stories that don't add up, this woman who's denying things that are blatantly obvious. So Elaine had to make a decision. Either I do my job and just emotionally detach from this, or I do what a good lawyer is supposed to do, or an experienced lawyer is supposed to do, and fully commit to this woman. Well, that has psychological repercussions on her. Your mind has to justify what you're doing. We're very bad, and this is what cognitive dissonance is, we're very bad at doing things that we don't agree with. We're very bad at acting inconsistently. A lot of what we do is out of a need to stay consistent with our moral being. So to a certain extent, she had to ignore the signs in order to do her job right. And that has psychological effects. And I think we're seeing that in this interview. We're seeing a woman who was so committed to a standpoint that she's no longer armed with logic, only with fidelity. Rob, would you agree?
Yeah, and we have a name for it in litigation. It's essentially when someone says you're too close to the case. They say you're too close to the case. And it's clouding what would otherwise be your neutral judgment.
Yeah.
Okay, really quickly before because we're already running longer. I only said that I'd have these guys for like an hour. I've got super chats piling up, so I don't want to.
Sorry.
No. I want to tell everybody. I hate to turn down money, but I can only go through so many super chats. I will do a makeup stream, but please understand that if you need me to read it this stream with these guys, stop. Don't do it right now, because I've got 58. So I'm gonna focus on the 58.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Anything that comes after that, I will try to do a makeup stream. I'll do anything I can to get it out there and get it read. But for this particular stream, I've got them already starred, and I just don't want to take your money without giving you that benefit.
That's so noble. See how noble he is?
Yeah.
And you guys haven't hit subscribe yet? Wow.
Yeah. We're gonna call the speed round.
Yeah,
definitely a speed round. All right. Looks like Elaine got her 15 minutes of fame after all.
Got that one.
Agree. I think when AH asked for the jury's names to be sealed because they're talking trash about them and people can't reach out to them, good possibility.
It's possible, but it's pretty routine that these names get sealed by one party or the other, so I wouldn't read too much into it.
Okay, Elaine is a ghoul for trying to shame actual DV victims. Agree.
Yep.
I mean, she's benefiting from pain, so I don't know what else you call it. Thank you for the super sticker. There's pictures on the internet for the bar in Australia. Thank you very much. They have it for sale. There's no outlet for that, for the phone on the wall. Just FYI. Oh, okay. So there we go. And then people have been saying this throughout the chat that Tug has posted a video showing that there was no phone.
Nice.
I was kicked by a horse 10 years ago. No pain, but a big gash in my shins. Yeah, I hate it when that happens. Being the smoke. I'm trying to get to 1K. I'm so close for great cooking, barbecue, and it's a custom cabinet maker. Folks, if you want to help me out, I mean, believe me, I remember trying to get to 1,000. It is a very big deal to get to 1,000. I know they've got giant channels and all that, but Spidey, you can confirm. I mean,
there's no such thing. There's no such thing as small victories. You know, like we all started somewhere and we all celebrate every landmark. And I'm so excited for Rob. I'm so damn excited for Rob's growth. And Eric, I'm so excited for you as well, you know, because like this isn't such an amazing group of people, great comments, very highly intellectual, and it's a curated crowd. Like, you know what you're doing. You're attracting people who belong here and for this type of content. So, so bring the smoke. really excited for you as well. You're very close to 1K. Congratulations. That's such a great accomplishment. And I wish you all the best. Keep going, keep pushing, keep growing.
Absolutely. And DM me, please. DM me on Instagram. I'd love to see some of the cabinet work.
Oh, awesome. There we go. Ooh, Wood Daddy's getting spicy. Tug did the video on the house. Yep. Seen that. I'll definitely have to check that out. Thank you, Crazy Cat Queen, new member. That umbrella guy did the analysis. Thank you. There's audio of Australia that doesn't match her testimony. She's walking around stating, yep. Now, apparently that's evidence that it didn't get in.
Correct.
Let me see. £8. Thank you very much, Helen. And that's like real money, British money. AH has an alleged reputation for stealing stories. I guess my dog stepped on a bee is taking the dog ate my homework excuse.
Possible.
That
Who knows?
Bee thing is weird. Now, somebody did correct me on that, or did point out, I did not know that a bee sting for a dog actually can put them in critical condition, or they can have a very serious. So the reaction may not have been completely untoward if she had that knowledge. She did grow up on a ranch around horses and things. So I'm going to actually give her that one and say that she could have been cringing in actual worry for the dog. I don't know. But yeah, I want to give a little if I can. I'm learning from Spidey.
You're
Spidey's a generous soul.
Admirable for that. Yes.
You're a great guy, Spidey.
Oh, thanks, man.
Rubbing off on me.
Thank you.
Can Johnny sue the Washington? This is my question, or the ACLU. I would love to see him.
No.
Well, they drafted it, they wrote it, they created it. The ACLU, not them. No,
they had the right to rely on Amber, and the fact that they had to sue Amber to prove that there was a lie. You can't sue them. Now, if they go back and they publish it again, and Barnes made this point last night, all these guys that are going out there and republishing the same statements, they might want to, in light of this verdict, they might want to kind of take those down.
Okay. And by the way, they did update her profile that looked like they were doubling down. Maybe I misread it.
Good for that. Good luck.
Thank you, Rebecca. What are your plans now that this trial is over? Will you guys talk about Wagatha Christie? I could tell you my plans. There's this other case going on, and the guy has gotten a break from Johnny Depp, Alec Baldwin. And I've been covering Alec Baldwin now for months on another of my channels, America's Untold Stories.
Great stuff.
I'm doing some covers here. Maybe I'll even talk to Spidey about that, because I have all the police interviews of all the people involved, and I have contact with the people involved as well. And maybe be doing some analysis. I've done some analysis with Gavin Stone already. So that's something that will be here. It's still current. And if you're interested, you guys?
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Rob, what's next?
That'll be fun. I want to take a look at what you're doing. I'm planning on getting back in the shop and actually making a few things and spending some time down there. We'll see. I've got a list that's like a mile long of things I have to do that this trial kind of kicked down the road.
Cool. All right. Can Elaine get in trouble for a media tour? I have a feeling no, but
Not really. We'll see.
what are your estimate of legal fees for Depp v. Heard? More than I can afford.
Net between the two of them?
$1.5 million?
Oh my gosh, no. I was going to say 12 or 13 million.
Oh, really? Okay. Wow.
Or in other words, what Rob made on YouTube with that video of the bed.
God, you guys got to be kidding me.
Could or should JD agree not to enforce a judgment if Amber Heard doesn't appeal? He can do anything he wants, technically.
Yeah. It's his paper. He can choose what to do with it.
As a survivor, I firmly believe that many other survivors reject and are offended by AH's performance because we identify with JD as a fellow victim by his words and behavior. Yeah. This is for you, Rob, definitely. I deeply appreciate your ardent defense of victims, Rob. I got goosebumps from your fervor. Thank you all for covering this.
It's real. I mean, I hate when people take advantage of these situations and when people actually gaslight based on faked experiences.
Okay, the phone she described was in PH3.
What is PH3?
I'm not sure.
Penthouse 3. That was
Okay.
the whole
Oh,
upstairs of their ECB building.
I see.
was a
So
weird-
she's mixing
layout.
she's mixing memories.
Why would Elaine do this horrible, dishonest interview, especially if she and Amber hate each other? It's about Elaine, not about Amber.
Yep. This one was the look at me. We did everything we could. We were the best attorneys in the world.
Actually, Rob, question for you. After a trial is over and your client is publicly hated and you go on an interview, because I have a feeling your answer might be you just don't take an interview, but let's say you do an interview because somebody twisted your arm. Do you turn your back on your now not ex-client, but like do you kind of call it like it is and be like, well, yeah, shit, she didn't do a good job? Or do you stand by them? What do you do?
The attorney-client privilege still exists even after the case, which means that if it refers to a conversation that I had with that client and that's where I'm deriving my knowledge, I can't testify about it. Honestly, when Elaine was making the comment of Elaine, she doesn't have the money to pay it. That's a statement that would have to be expressly authorized by Amber Heard. Because think about how Elaine has that information. The source of that information is privileged material.
Good point.
And she just aired it out for the whole world to hear.
Okay, so besides that, what would you have expected from Elaine when she's being grilled about the success of this case? Would you have liked a more realistic approach of her saying, like, there were some pretty shit answers from my client's part? Or do you think standing by your client like that is noble?
I mean, argue the evidentiary issues.
Right.
Stand by your client. Say that we had a great case. We had great witnesses. Ms. Heard put on her best evidence. The jury disagreed. I mean, you argue the issues. You don't go into the personal stuff.
Right. Got it. Makes perfect sense. Keep it professional.
Yep.
Wise. Okay, can Elaine get in trouble? No. Jurors come out anonymously. We don't know. Maybe.
We're waiting to see. Yeah.
If appeal, will she have a bond?
Yes. If the bond minimum is $500,000. If she wishes to stay the enforcement, it's about $10 million, or it is whatever the judge decides it's going to be.
Ooh, and she probably can't even afford that. See, she's got to
That's
find
if she
another
wants-
Elon Musk.
If she wants to stay enforcement, which means if she wants to prevent them from going after her during the appeal pending.
So if she just keeps paying toward it, she can appeal all day.
Yeah.
And then win it back if she wins the appeal. Is that how that works?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't realize EB practiced there. Rob, do you anticipate she'll have tension with the judge, I'm sure.
No, it's not going to be pretty. I kind of want to be in that courtroom on June 24th.
What's June 24th?
That's entry of the order. The attorneys appear and present the order. Now, if they have an agreed order prior to that date, it gets submitted to judge's chambers and the case comes off the docket. The judge just signs it in chambers. But that's literally just the act of signing the paper.
House, no phone jack. Thank you very much. Thank you for answering my question. Day mode, you all rock. Thank you. Mr. Lumber, you're a certified legend. Can you please explain the appeal process and chances that Amber has in overturning?
Kind of hit a little bit. She has to file notice of appeal within 30 days of entry of the order, or ask the court to extend that time so that she can file an appeal a little bit later. Then it goes to the Court of Appeals. 3-judge panel is assigned to the case. They have a long briefing schedule back and forth. She has to pay for the full transcription cost. When people talk about the appeal cost, you have to produce the record to the Court of Appeals. That means you have to pay for the court transcription. The transcript alone for a 6-week trial, I imagine, is going to be anywhere from $100,000 to $200,000. So I don't see very much of a chance. Elaine kind of was doing the big the big chess thing, saying essentially we can win on appeal. We have good grounds. I just don't see it.
Okay. Question to Elaine. Aren't the jury supposed to be on? Yes, she accused them of all kinds of shit. Dollar from Daniel. Thank you. Amber, homeowner insurance pay attorney fees? Is this true? What?
This has been tossed around, and I know that people are trying to figure this one out. We don't know yet. I know that there's rumors about this, that there was some umbrella policy that she had that had some liability even for defamatory statements. We don't know enough yet. So this is kind of one of those where keep your eye on the news.
Where do I sign up for that one? Jesus. I mean,
I'm trying to find the right source to even source that info. I've got a couple of friends of mine who are insurance attorneys and trying to figure out if that's possible.
I was planning to send Elaine some flowers because I felt so bad for her, but after seeing her interviews, hell yeah. Oh, hell no.
Same girl.
This is not legal advice. Definitely not coming from me. I only hang out with lawyers.
We're not. Okay.
Vanna, YouTube member, thank you very much. Could the reason Amber was there was to make a speech if she had actually won? Sure.
Not in court.
Well, on the steps outside, I guess. But,
possibly.
And I do wonder if she was planning to do the Jussie.
I
am not
Jussie.
self-blame because we're on YouTube.
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm not suicidal. Blah blah blah. Whatever it was.
Thanks, Rob.
I'm not self-harm. Oh my gosh.
I know you're new to YouTube.
It's late. I'm not bad person. I said idle. I said my car is not an idle. My car is not an idle.
Question: if she appeals, does the court have to accept and take it back to court? No, I don't think. Do appeals have to be accepted?
She would have to prove a merit for the appeal. There has to be a legal error, and the appeal can be rejected. I mean, it'll get to briefs. They'll be able to argue it, but I don't see that it's going to go very far.
All right. Why would anyone want to defend someone like Amber as a lawyer? Or not? Wouldn't it be something you'd be scared of happening to you? And as I mean, you probably defend murderers and other people. I mean, that's your job, right?
Defend someone like Amber, lawyer. It really depends. There are certain clients I won't defend. There are certain clients I won't represent.
Really?
I have the ability. I've been practicing for 10 years. I can turn down work. And when I get a bad vibe from somebody where I don't mesh with them, I just say, I'm not your guy. So you don't have to.
Cool. It's amazing.
You know, actually, it made me think of Barnes for a second. Rob, you can confirm this or not. Barnes was saying he used to defend a lot of abuse victims because he worked for a women's shelter, etc. And he said that he noticed that it's always the same lawyers. He said he could tell if somebody was an abuser just by who their lawyer was.
Wow.
I mean, lawyers get reputations. I made a comment early on in this trial that lawyers and clients, when I made the comment of meshing, personalities have to be kind of similar. You can't have a bulldog and you yourself are passive. That conflict in personality leads to inconsistent legal strategy. So both of you guys kind of have to be on the same page. And when a lawyer is being disingenuous as far as how their personality is, like if I went in there, I'm not going to start screaming profanities at the other lawyer. That's not who I am. But there are clients that would want me to do that. And if I tried to do that, it wouldn't come off well. It would not produce well. It wouldn't play well. So that's part of the thing. But yeah, when you make the comment about people that consistently represent the same type of characters, that's kind of what I think about.
Fair enough. The real tragedy would be if she really were a victim of abuse and was so scared of not being believed that she oversold and no one believed. Yeah, and Spidey, I know you've talked about that a lot, that a person who is telling the truth will sound identical to a liar over time if they are not being received well.
Yep, that's research. That's research. That's Ekman. It's someone who's telling the truth and is scared of not being believed shows very much the same signs as someone who's being deceptive. It's the same because ultimately what you're trying to do is you're trying to sell the narrative, and you want you're focusing on your public's acceptance of your story rather than just your delivery of the facts. So yeah, we do see that. And that's a great objective, level-headed concern to say at the end of the day, what if some of this was right and we're all just jumping on it like savages? Look, again, there's an overwhelming amount of things in her narrative that don't make sense, enough for me to sleep soundly at night knowing that I've called her out. And again, if you go look at my videos, I don't think there's ever a point where I say she's lying about everything. In fact, there are many times where I say I don't think anybody's lying about everything, but I could sleep soundly at night saying, this sounds deceptive, that sounds deceptive, this sounds deceptive, and I show why. Here are the clusters, here are the inconsistencies, here's the research, and my experience, very much so.
And then there's evidence and lack thereof that substantiate it even more.
Exactly.
Not just behavior, but what's there.
Yeah. And you know what? I have to admit this publicly in front of everyone, I think for the first time during this trial. At first, I was weary because I saw the deception. What's happening here? Why am I
You're
alone?
admitting something. I'm featuring something.
No, come back. This is too much. Come back. Come back immediately.
Come back.
I almost did it to Rob earlier, but Rob doesn't know me that well yet.
I wouldn't have cared. I was kind of too angry. I was in
No.
blind rage.
Don't leave me alone. So so at the beginning of this, I saw clusters of deception in her deposition, in her earlier testimony. And I didn't want to be the guy who comes out and says that this woman who is talking about abuse is lying. It's such a cringy feeling to come out and say that. I must admit that as I saw people talking about this and more people saying this doesn't add up, that doesn't add up, it allowed me to come a little bit more of that shell and be like, okay, here's what it is. That's deceptive. This is deceptive. And I did. It's not that I saw more. I was more comfortable talking about that because I saw that a lot of people were seeing similar things or agreeing, or that there was a mood about it. And with my experience, I can identify why people are feeling this. A lot of people in my comments said, you know what? Thank you so much. I felt that. I didn't know why, but this tells me why I was feeling that. So I must admit that as things happened, I felt more comfortable talking about it. But at the end of the day, because of just how objective, and I like to give people the benefit of the doubt in most cases. There's that doubt, and you're right, Siobhan. I hope I'm saying that right.
Is it Siobhan?
It could be.
Or,
it's Siobhan. I'm sorry.
I don't know. I'm just guessing. I have no idea.
It could be that this is someone who just really wants to be believed because she's fearing not being believed. But we could sleep soundly at night knowing that there's a lot of deception in a lot of her answers.
Fair enough. Coming in late here, but real quick wasn't to say thank you to Spidey. I've been searching his and Rob's channels all day looking for his analysis of her reactions to the verdict. Well, here you go. You've gotten some.
Good. Thank you so much.
I'm behind, but answer to why didn't Amber show up? Because this is the role of her lifetime. Yeah, I mean, this is probably the biggest thing that Amber Heard will ever do for the rest of her career. Truthfully, I don't see much happening. And Georgina, you are so sweet. I wish I had more money to. Georgina, you are my most steadfast supporter on every channel, and I'm just so thankful to have you here. Any day, don't ever feel like you have to give more money. Just watching it and sharing and being here. Thank you so much. And seriously, and I love that you're a survivor too. I love that language, and I'm so happy to see people who have been through a situation and feel comfortable to come out and feel that they are a survivor, and I salute you for that. So,
yeah,
Georgina, you're not a survivor, you're a warrior.
Yep, and I hope you felt a little bit of that rage when I was yelling at Elaine for you.
I love your streams, all of you. Rob, I'm grateful that you're a family court lawyer. You come across as so compassionate. I'd love to talk with you all sometime. You're starting YouTube. Go for it. Congratulations. Woo! You're a psychologist.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Hit us up. I'm always that's one of the subjects I cover. Human behavior and things. So
love to do
definitely please. Do you think Amber Heard tried to? Oh, sorry. Thank you, Bono. And I'm reading ahead. Do you think Amber Heard tried to emulate Dr. Curry? I didn't see it. The one she should have emulated was Camille. That's what I've been saying. Instead of imitating Johnny, she should have imitated Camille.
No, she tried. She failed. Camille came off as assertive, not aggressive. She came off as
I meant her wardrobe.
Oh, the wardrobe.
Not personality.
I was talking about personality. Like when
she can't.
She can't pull off.
I'll again repeat Greg Gutfeld's quote that he wouldn't have Amber play herself in a movie for acting that poor. Elaine did fine for what she had to work with. Seriously, somebody has to take the bad clients. Don't tase me. Preston, another regular. Yeah, but she doesn't have to go overboard in it and be an embarrassment. No, I mean, I'm not complaining about Rottenborn. I didn't hear Rob say one thing bad about Rottenborn and a press tour, or did you?
No, I really didn't. And honestly, I get this point, Preston. I had this exact same feeling, and I really did defend her. Spidey knows this. I did it very vehemently to the job that they had to do. This was too far, and this was ridiculous. And I think this is what I'm judging her for, not the defense of her client.
All right. What Amber Heard did was disgusting, was use her privilege to reduce the importance of truth to the rest of us who have legitimate. Yes, and that is the biggest crime. That's why people who go on and on. They're saying it's a pile on. It's this. It's not that. It's similar to somebody saying they have cancer and collecting money. Somebody who lies and rubs it in a victim's face. If she didn't write that editorial and people were picking on her, I would be the first one to say, leave that woman alone. What is your problem? Let her get help or don't get help. I would have taken the Isaac Baruch approach completely. But she did this. She brought this forth. She put these stories out there. As far as what I saw, they had a divorce. She got her settlement. She got her $7 million settlement, another X $1 million in community settlement as well. So she came out. She was made as whole as possible in this situation. Both of them moved on to their own careers. Then she comes knocking back in for a stab. She did that.
Yep.
And I think she's got to own it.
Yep. Nothing to add. Accurate.
Shouldn't the VBA appeal Amber's winning on the Waldman statement for Depp as it starts to erode the lawyer-client? I don't know. I'm sure that they won't. I'm sure they're like, we'll just take our win and go.
No, he's suggesting the Virginia Bar Association, like the bar would do that. No, the bar has no stake in this one. It's up to the client to assert the attorney-client relationship, and it's up to the attorney to defend that. So no, the bar has no place in that argument.
All right. And Umbrella Guy, thank you so much. I will have to check out that video. Thank everybody. Thank you all for pointing that out for sure. Can DJ appeal the $2 million? On what grounds can Amber appeal? Would the Depp team want to appeal that, or just?
I don't think they want to. I mean, everyone always says, "Can they appeal it?" I think they have better argument than Amber does as far as the agency argument of finding that Waldman was Johnny Depp. I mean, I hated that argument from the very beginning. I don't think that they care, to be honest. I think that they just want to bury this thing.
I think Johnny got everything he wanted.
He did. Yep.
He's out celebrating, man.
Yeah, literally. He's actually was on YouTube earlier streaming.
Yeah. Well, his press release was just epic. I mean, Amber Heard's Word document typed up, posted to Twitter. Johnny Depp's photograph of the handwritten or the typewriter that he typewrote the press release on, then hand signed it. And I mean, it was just, yeah.
Well, worlds apart. It's kind of like the talent.
Yeah, pretty much.
Great stuff. So Amber Heard, the like button, everyone. I like that. And while you're at it,
hit it. Hit the like button.
Yeah. Don't punch it. Just hit it. No,
pledge to the like button, but actually physically
donate to it.
We use pledge and click synonymously, so please pledge to the like button and subscribe.
And I'm going to steal something from Uncivil Law. There's a red button down there that's sad. If the button is red, it's sad. Please consider making the red button no longer red so it won't be sad.
Yeah.
I deeply appreciate it. If the jury can't speak about the case for a year, that they didn't say that. They cannot reveal the jury. The jury
Correct.
can out themselves, if I understand correctly.
Pretty sure we're going to see that at some point.
Oh, I hope so. That
It's going to be jury number 9 is going to be the one that does it.
Well, it'd be great if like 4 of them came out on a panel show. Like Good Morning America. Oh man, that would just be so.
I would recommend against that.
Let's get them. Let's get them on one of our channels.
Open invitation. Hope you're watching now.
Yeah, absolutely. Jurors, if in any way this makes it back to you, or someone knows the jurors, reach out to them. Any one of the 3 of us would love to have you.
Yep. Bells on. We value things we pay for, not just money, action too. Elaine should be thanking the jury to show and respect the system she works in and for. Yeah.
Kind of what I said.
A member of the jury made it. Okay. TikTok. Thank you very, very much. And that is all of the super chats I had saved. Looks like I only have a couple more. I'll try to get to them really quickly. Mike D, 2 things. I know I'm late. The phone in Australia was discovered not to be there. Tug did it. She ridiculed witnesses out there. 15 minutes of fame. I agree with all that, Mike.
Yep.
Definitely.
She's kind of odd.
Mm-hmm.
See Joseph Morris on YouTube. A juror has spoken. Can you look that up? I don't know if that's new or the TikTok thing. And let's see.
Joseph Morris.
Yeah,
Joseph
new jury member
Morris.
speaks out, but I'm not seeing a. I'm seeing a streamer.
It's just commenting on the TikTok,
it's just a guy streaming, and he's publishing like I guess the tweet, or I don't know if this is
Okay,
a
I figured it could be, but
yeah, this is the TikTok guy.
He's just
So
commenting on the
not him.
TikTok.
Yeah.
Okay.
And by the way,
Yeah.
like every creator and every news agency has
Thank
already
you, Richard.
commented on this guy's TikTok. Like he has all of our contact info. Just FYI.
Good on you, Joseph Morris, for jumping on that and getting 250,000 views. I was good stuff. Good stuff.
No, the juror won't get in legal trouble. He can say anything he wants, I believe. Or am I wrong, Rob?
Yeah. No, he can say anything he wants.
Rob, how often do you tell potential clients I'm not your guy? Just curious.
It varies. Let's say there's at least 2 or 3 per year that I have where it's a long interview process. It's a rather large case. And I just kind of say, I'm sorry, I can't take it.
Okay. TikTok video. Thank you again. Hold on. We got $4.99. Thank you. I'm getting close. Whoops. Spidey, it was awesome to see everything I saw in Amber Heard's testimony verified in your videos. Law and Lumber, you rock. So cool to see you all together. Madeline, thank you very much. I think, is this it? Check out the Mark Stevens QC connection to Amber Heard. I'm not familiar with that. That's a narrative we must change together.
I'm kind of comfortable debunking the whole TikTok thing. The guy, I mean, because the one thing here is they ask him about the punitive damages, and he makes a reply and says, one, he's talking too openly about she reminded me of my ex. I just don't see that coming out that openly in your first outing yourself. And then 2, they make the question about the punitive damages, and he said we knew about the punitive damages, but we also knew that going high would make a statement. And that, I don't believe that's true at all, because that's not an accurate recitation of the law. It wasn't in the jury instructions. And to say that he knew that, I don't know that doesn't jive for me.
Cool. Breaking news.
So you know how we catch this person? I have a video on how to catch liars on my channel if you guys are interested. And there's something called the volatile conundrum, and it's something you use in cases like this, where you throw out a lie to catch a lie. So if we were to say something to this person, and now that I'm saying publicly it may not work, but if we were to say something to this person along the lines of,
don't send super chats. I'm trying to clear it out. I appreciate, or I just can't get to them. I just to let you know.
So if we say something along the lines of, we make something up that only someone in the room would know. So for example, if we're to say something like, the bailiff came out publicly, or I know the bailiff is my cousin, and he said that in the deliberation room, there was a stack of something. Like there was a stack, let's say there was a stack of plastic cups. What color were they? But we made it up. There's no plastic cups. I'm just making that up on top of my head. Or something that only someone in the room would know. You know, to say something like, we heard that one of the jurors had a case of Tourette's syndrome. The bailiff said that to me. Was it really hard to deal with that? Or did you, what does that entail? So you just completely make something up and see if they roll with it.
Yeah, or did they fix that microwave?
Yeah, like, the microwave in the deliberation room was broken, and you know, you guys couldn't have snacks. That must have been really difficult. How was that? So you just make this little thing up that only someone who was in the room would know, and you see how they handle it. That's called a volatile conundrum. Don't use it too much, because
I couldn't do the dissection of Elaine's interview. Spidey may have something coming on that. I don't know.
That's a good point. My plastic cup example was stupid because either yellow or red. I like your microwave one better. I was under pressure. I cracked under pressure.
Well, you just prompted me. See, I had extra time to think about it.
That's a good point.
So you were out there performing, and I'm just sitting there on the side going, I can snipe and steal credit right now. I disagree with you, DR, that Amber Heard will have a financially successful career, because even though the mainstream media wants to support the Me Too aspect, Hollywood wants butts in the seat and they want to make money. And the bottom line is that Johnny Depp can open a movie, especially now. And if you look at all the support he has, how many people will go out of their way to watch his next movie just on principle that it's Johnny Depp?
Yep. And Amber Heard, good luck getting a book deal.
Good luck getting a Hallmark show.
Nobody wants to tie their allegiances to that sinking ship.
Well, not even that. Imagine the publisher.
Yeah,
That's
what I'm saying.
You actually have a defamation finding. All right. Sorry, Eric.
No,
Wrap it up, buddy. You got it.
I'm wrapping it up, folks.
We're done. We're going.
This has been amazing. Obviously, we'll have to do something again. Hopefully, it'll be easier because there will be hopefully less pressure on us with all the channels, all the trial, all the things going on. I've got Baldwin stuff coming up. Hopefully, you guys are into that.
Oh yeah, let me know. I'll come in.
Okay, cool. Spidey, I've got one guy who never shows his face. That might be a fun statement analysis discovery.
Great.
Over an hour but it's somebody I talk to directly too. So it's very interesting. Folks, if you like this kind of thing, again, I hate groveling and begging and everything else, but I guess it's a mandatory job. Please consider subscribing on your way out. I promise you there's a lot more cool stuff coming along. And
subscribe to Rob.
So definitely subscribe to Rob. Subscribe to Spidey.
Thanks, Spidey.
Law and Lumber, Behavioral Arts. I will make sure both of your names are in the description. You just click them. Boom. It'll go right to your channel. Each channel, subscribe. They're setting the world on fire. We got to get Spidey to 600K. We need to get me to a fraction of that. And we'll be having a wonderful day. So everybody, thank you so much and see you soon.